While we're having the rest of the attendees join us, I will go over a few of our housekeeping issues. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Christy, and I'm the Director of Client Success here at BusyBusy. And looking at the participant list, I see lots of you that I've chatted with on and off over the last few months, so it's good to see some friendly faces. And actually doing the webinar for you today is going to be Gordon, and Gordon is our onboarding and integration specialist. He is a guru among gurus. Constantly blows my mind the amount of information this man keeps in his head. We are going to plan on 30 minutes for the overall viewing of the webinar with a 15-minute question and answer session at the end, but we will be answering questions throughout, so feel free to drop them in the Q&A. And if it's a simple enough question that I can just zip off and answer right back to you, I will do that. If it's a question that I think would really benefit everyone for Gordon to go over at the end, then I'll save it for the end and we'll go over it all together. We will be muting participants for this particular webinar. We are recording, and we will be putting the webinar on YouTube for you guys to review and share with coworkers if you choose to. So at this point, I think we're 3 minutes in, and we might have some stragglers, but we're going to go ahead and get this started, and I will turn it over to Gordon now.
All right, thank you, Christy. Appreciate the introduction and the kind words, and thank you all for joining us today. We're very excited about this release, and I hope when we're done with this webinar that you'll also agree with our excitement and understand our excitement for this. The things that we'll cover today is why we're releasing this new dashboard and the new web interface. We'll also talk about what's included with the new web interface, and we'll introduce the new settings page within the app. And then for those that are using the old reports and some of the exports, the CSV exports, we'll show you how to get back to that stuff in the legacy reports. And like Christy said, we'll have a Q&A session at the very end. So find that Q&A section within the meeting window. You should have a slide out when you hover at the top or the bottom of the screen, and you should see Q&A there. So we've had really great participation in our last 2 webinars. We'd love to keep that up and hear back from you. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in and just give you the why and our thinking behind this dashboard. So first, we've known for a long time that we collect tremendous amounts of really great data, but we felt that we can provide a better way of viewing that data for the administrators of the companies we work with and the managers or project managers. And so with that said, our developers have been super busy working on developing this dashboard. And we see that as technology expands in the industry, and as you get better and better technologies out in the field, that data is just going to continue to grow. And as time goes forward, we're going to continue to add to and enhance this dashboard. So what you'll see is you'll see new cards show up here with new data. You'll see some new features show up. They'll show up automatically for you, the cards. And as you open up the app, you're going to see those new features. You can opt out of those at that point. And then, of course, you can customize this dashboard. So the dashboard itself, just to give you a high level understanding of what it's doing, it's displaying data that you're already gathering from the field with BusyBusy. It's customizable by user, so a payroll admin could customize their dashboard, and that would be their settings or their dashboard view or preferences, and they would be able to access this at any given time. A project manager might have their own setup, and that's set up, of course, by user. The data that's visible in the dashboard is going to be dependent upon the permission levels of each employee that's using the dashboard. So if an employee only has oversight over their own crew's data would show up, and only their own crew's data would show up here in the dashboard. So these cards, just to help you understand how these cards work, you can see this first card is the total hours for the current pay period. We're sitting at 294 hours and 37 minutes for our test company. This is our company that we use internally to test and demo for our clients. But you'll see this this pattern here. This is a great way to look at this. And then if we look over here at the total cost, the current pay period, I love how we can see the comparison between the two, the total hours and the total cost for the pay period. And you can see how those match up. The the dashboard can be customized. So if I hit the gear up here at the top right, I can customize what I see within my dashboard. So for example, this daily signatures alert is a great one to turn on. I can also set a few settings within each of these elements here. So the time, I can indicate how far back this goes, and I can turn on and off any of these features within this. And then as I drag that up this column, it's going to move the position within the dashboard. And best practices are move the items up to the top that you're going to use the most, or that are the most important to you. And then once you've set that, you can go ahead and hit apply, and that's going to move that up to the top. This data is going to refresh, and you can see how now at a glance I can see the total injuries reported in our company for the last 14 days. This is, of course, us testing and picking, yes, I was injured, just because we'd like to show our clients full functionality and during our demos, and so we really haven't had 7 injuries in the last 14 days. If anything, it's finger cramps from typing, inaccurate time, of course, and brake issue. So hopefully that makes sense. Like I said, as we add new cards and new features to the dashboard, you're going to see those show up at the bottom here. So you'll see a new card show up as we push new cards up. And not only that, if you have features that you'd like to utilize, you can enable those features here within the dashboard. So I can turn on machine hours, or I can turn on equipment costs, and so on. Let's see. So now that we've kind of gone over this dashboard, we're going to kind of make our way down the side here. We'll talk about my status, the timesheets, the management list, and the settings, and as well as the legacy reports. And then I'll tie in what a lot of these other features are. I'm going to assume that we're talking to BusyBusy users already, and users that are used to the old system or the old view. In the past, you'd go into company settings to access your settings. Those settings are here. The management list here. This is really, really important, and I had to get used to this when I was first using the new interface. Previously, you would be able to access employees, projects, cost codes, and equipment from here underneath my dashboard, and you still can. So if we click into employees, we can see the employees dashboard. But it's important to, I just want to draw your attention to, there's these lists here, and then if we expand the management list, there are those additional management lists here. So we'll come back to that. Let's go ahead and talk about the My Status page. The My Status page is where, if you are tracking time and you utilize the website to track time or to view your hours, you can do that in the My Status page. The My Status page is going to look a lot like the dashboard, but it's your information specifically. So you get a snapshot of your data. I can manage my user here. So I can reset my password. I can change my username if I want. I can change any of the features or any of the settings for my user here as necessary. So let's go back. I can also archive my user from there. The clock in portion here, it looks a little different. Before it was in the middle of the screen, but this is kind of just making room for these cards. If we hit clock in, it's going to let us go through the clocking process. It looks a little different. Even though I'm creating a time entry for my clock in screen or from my personal status page, it lets me add other people to this clock in. So as soon as that pulls up, I'll be able to add, an employee or two. And if I hit submit, that's going to let me clock those people in. So I'm going to actually not clock anybody else in. I can select the details. So project. The nice thing about the new interface here is without switching back and forth between modal windows, we can search within these search bars. So if I'm looking for Highway 89, it's going to let me pull up Highway 89, and then the cost code. There I can select a cost code or search for a cost code as well. So let's search for concrete forming. And there we go. And then the description, just like before, you can write a description. And the nice thing for those that are used to using the web app, you probably learned really quickly in the previous version that you had to, if you're going to highlight text, you had to stop. That is no longer an issue. You can drag right off that modal window, and it's not going to close that out. So that's been really nice to have. So I'm going to hit submit. We're going to clock in, and that's going to get us started clocking in. So the cards here are also displayed over here in the different format. So the data rather from these cards is displayed over here in a different format. So we can see, our entries for the day. I can see the time card. If we go into the time card, this is going to show us for a previous pay period, our time cards. So if I click into this pay period here, you'll see my answers from the daily sign off here, plus my total hours, both regular overtime and double time and PTO. The signature, if you're on a time card that has been completed, so we're past April 10th, this is going to allow us to click and sign our time card right here and submit that, and now our time card's been signed. So for those that are used to signing your time card on the web, just make sure you're going into the My Status page, into time cards, and then make sure you're on the date range that you need to sign, and then you can sign from there. The My Schedule, so we've got a card down here for My Schedule as well, or schedule. If we click into that, the schedule here, I can click into it here, or I can click into it here. Let's click into it from the card. This is going to allow me to view my schedule, either month, week, or day. It's filtering for me, and so I don't have any work scheduled. But if I get rid of this filter here and hit apply, if I have oversight or visibility into these other people's, my coworkers rather, schedules or time, I'm going to see their scheduled work. So scheduling is there, and then if we scroll down a little bit further, you're going to see we've got a card with recent photos, and you can also access those photos over here. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hit clock out, and I've got options here at the top right for switch at. This is a feature that was not on web before, but is now on web. and that's the switch at, and that's going to allow you to switch. If you forgot to switch previously, it'll allow you to switch retroactively. And then of course the clock out at, and then go on break, and then edit time entry. So we've done a lot of things to, even though you're probably used to the old way, we've done a lot of things to make it intuitive and user-friendly. So I'm going to go ahead and hit clock out here, and it's going to ask me to answer these questions, or it's going to have me answer these questions. I hit no, yes, yes, submit, and now that's clocked me out. So that is now a time entry on my time card for the day, and also on my time entries for the day, and then on the time card as well. Okay, again, I'm going to remind you, if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the Q&A section of the meeting. The next place we'll go is in the timesheets. So the timesheets here, these are just great ways of viewing the data in varying degrees of detail. So the time entries here, this allows you to see the time entries by day, by employees. We've got Aaron Rogers here, and we've got 5 days of work, and we can see all of the details for each of those time entries. And if I scroll to the right, you're going to see I've got some information here. These are our logs. And if you haven't located the entry history, this in the previous version of the app, this is where these entry histories will live. Oops, I'm a little too impatient, but this is going to show you who clocked in or who performed the action. If there were any edits, you can see the edits. It's a great way to audit the time entries. And if we scroll down and scroll across, we'll look for somebody that's got some, I think we got Dustin. We go to find Dustin here. There we go. Okay, so there's Dustin. Dustin always has his GPS turned on, so that's great. We can turn that, we can click onto that GPS for that time entry. That's going to let us see the GPS grabs. And so, and if you click on those tags, it's going to let us see which of those location updates it is on the left-hand side. Okay. And a little note for all of these here, these reports here, we'll kind of just click through them real quick, but you've got settings over on the right hand side, so we can filter, we can set the pay period or the duration. We can also set the employee group, and so those that have fairly static employee groups, you can use the employee group section to establish crews rather, and those crews can be edited or can be filtered within this timesheet here. So we've got 5 groups, and we can filter our employees by those groups. If we click on the time cards over here, the time cards are going to provide us with a little bit more condensed view with our time card, our daily sign-off answers, the total hours here, and then the summary is going to provide a more condensed view even. So it's going to aggregate the time for each employee here for the entire pay period. So we're looking at 35 hours for Alexander Franklin. And one other thing that I forgot to mention, besides the settings and the filters over here, you can also customize these timesheets with that triple column button here. This is going to allow us to turn on and off columns. So if we just wanted to see everything but the paid time off, double time, and whether it's been signed by an employee or supervisor, let's apply that, and that's going to reset that. So now we're just seeing these 4 columns of data. And from here, if I needed to make some bulk changes, I can. If I check that top box, it's going to allow me to add time off for this group of employees. I can also hit the plus button and add a time entry from scratch for all of these employees. So anywhere you see those boxes on the left-hand side, that means that there are bulk actions that can be taken for all or multiple employees. Okay, so if we go down just a little bit further, these views here, the employee, project, cost code, and equipment views, these are ways of looking at the time, but for these specific data types, so or for these elements. So employee, if we go into employee there, it's going to show us who's clocked in for the day, how much time they have over here on the timer, and the project they're working on, and then their GPS, if they have their GPS enabled for clock in. But if we click up at the top here, we can see the various statuses or states the employees can be in. So they, if we got 5 clocked in, 58 are clocked out, 1 person's on break, and the show all is going to show all of our active, or all of our employees that are in an active status. So, and then it shows us those employees and their status here. So blue is clocked in, yellow is still on break, and gray is still clocked out. Okay, and then of course we can perform actions here as well across all or multiple employees. So I've selected all of the employees, and then at this point, if I hit the plus button, that's going to allow me to create a time entry for the entire company. And then if we click through these, you'll see real quick, we're displaying these hours, the same hours across the projects. And then we can see them by cost code for the day. And we can also see that by equipment. So somebody's demoing and they've disabled the equipment. So let's go ahead and enable that. And we can see that this piece of equipment has been logged into or clocked into today. Okay, and then the photos, scheduling, and maps, these are all as you remember them. They were the same format previously. Same thing with the scheduling and the maps. So if you've used those, then you should be comfortable with it. If not, I would recommend jumping in and taking a look at those and just playing around with those views. The map, this is especially helpful. This is going to show the current current location of my employees in relation to projects. And so I've got an employee clocked in here and some projects that have had time clocked to them up here. Okay, so back, let's go into the management list. So these management lists, so like I said, you still can access and manage the data or these elements here within the app. You just click into employees and then click manage, but if you go directly to the management list, it's going to let us view the management list right away. So yeah, from here we can make bulk edits to employees' profiles. So if we click that top box, I can make an edit to their position, the group, the GPS requirements. I can export them, or I can edit the lock date. So for those of you that are using the edit lock date feature within the app, this is where you'll do that. You'll just select everybody, hit edit lock date, and that'll let you lock down the previous pay period. And for those that aren't using that would like to use it, that's how you'll do it. But the lock date, the way that works, this is locking all of the time down from the beginning of time up to this date, and that'll lock that down for editing, which means you can go run payroll without worrying about anybody changing time after you. So if we hit close, delete on that, or we'll hit close on that. And then if we click into an employee's name here, this is going to allow us to make an edit. So I can edit Aaron Rogers here. I can edit his name, his position. So if we go to employee 5 here, who's a current employee, we'll change his position to Jeopardy host, since he's going to be the Jeopardy host for a couple of weeks. And then this is where we can reset passwords, contact information, and then overtime changes. Okay, and then I can also archive an employee from here as well. The projects, same thing under the management list. This is where we can edit and manage the profile. I can make bulk actions here, so I can edit the group, edit or export the projects. And then of course I can click into a project and manage the geolocation here, turn on the reminders, and edit any of the details for that project or for that project's profile. And then cost codes and equipment are pretty much the same thing. So from here, if we go down to, we're going to go down to the legacy reports. So legacy reports for those that still want access to your to the exports and to the other reports that we've had previously. If you just go into the legacy reports, we're going to keep these available, I believe, indefinitely. And if we ever go away from the legacy reports, this is a question we've gotten a couple of times. If we ever do go away from these legacy reports, we will have a feature to replace it, or a report to replace it, that will work as well or better than these legacy reports. And you'll notice from the miscellaneous section, our daily reports, kiosk photos, and the let's see, the report. It's the break hours report. Those are all missing from those legacy reports and are living out here in the now, or in the more drop down. The daily reports just allow you to view the daily reports that your employees are creating. The break hours are a way to view all of the hours, or all of the breaks that were taken. Those are unpaid breaks, like a lunch break, by your employees. And I also have the ability to select employees in mass and add a break. So if I just wanted to add a break in bulk, so it looks like they don't have they don't have time entry. So let's go to a previous pay period or a previous day. So if we select everybody at this point, I can create a break for all of these employees. And once I hit save, that's going to create a break for those employees. So, so it's just warning me that there are some employees that have time entries that don't support a break from 12 p.m. to 12:30 p.m. So it's not going to create a break for them. But what it'll do is it'll just create a break for those that have hours that support the break time. Okay, and then from here, let's jump into settings. In the settings, we've laid it out to be more intuitive, and it will take a little bit of getting used to, but you can kind of get an understanding of what is included in each of the sections just by the name. So company profile, of course, that's your company's profile, and contact information. If you want to send us Christmas cards or a thank you note, or give us your feedback. If it's not a if it's the opposite of thank you, that's our office address. So, but in the timekeeping section here, the project tracking, this is what you can use to enable what you want your employees to provide when they're clocking in. So you can require your projects here, cost codes, equipment, and then you can set your defaults and rounding time here. And then your daily sign in and sign out, time card approval, that's the signatures on time cards. And then pay period and overtime, that's where you'll set that. The budgeting, that is the budgets for projects. And that's a question we've gotten, and I'll show you how to access the budgets for each project in just a second. The positions pretty much the same. The only other thing here that's really kind of the outlier, and that is the minimum map version in other. That's going to allow you to set or force an update on your employees. So as promised, let's go over to the projects page, and we'll click into a project. And this is showing you how to access the budget. So if you're kind of lost at where to access the budgets for a given project, you'll click on the projects page. If your project isn't listed here, you can show all projects and find the project that you want to edit the budget for or view the budget for. So let's click into 106 Rivermark. And if we go over to legacy reports, and again, you've probably noticed before we go into the legacy reports, there's a dashboard for each project as well. So if you need to see the high level data, if you want to manage these cards here to get a better view for your individual project, you can do the same thing we did on the dashboard previously. Then into the legacy reports for the budgets, and we're just about done, and we'll take your questions. The budgets, if we click into labor budget, this is where we can add or we can edit our labor budget. And that labor budget's designed to allow you to set a labor budget at the start of the project, and as your employees clock in and out on the job, it will show you in real time in terms of a percentage how much the employees have chipped away at that labor budget. So it's a great tool for project managers or anybody that needs to see those labor budgets. And that that pretty much covers the new information. Let's go back to the dashboard and we'll take your questions.
All righty, we've got Diane asking us that previously on the clock in page, it saved the projects you use the most. So that would be in my status now, and does it still do that?
So when clocking in, that's a good question. Let's go back to clock in, and I know it definitely does on the mobile, but it looks like it's not saving those here on the web. So that's a really good question. So that's something we need to follow up with and see if that was an intended design for both the projects, equipment, and the cost codes. Good question, Diane.
And Suzette is asking if it's possible to make the screen smaller to see dates and notes.
Okay, so I'm guessing that's in these screens here. If we scroll to the right, we can see the description and notes, and then the dates, or the dates and the notes together. So yeah, we are working on optimizing this real estate here. I know our developers have been made aware that we don't need quite that much room for the date and some of these other things. So they are looking into that. In the meantime, if you want to reduce what's being shown here to get a better view of this, we can disable, let's see, the start time, end time, and maybe breaks, and apply that. That's going to allow us to see fewer columns. So then I can expand that. So this is now showing me all of the columns that I've enabled. So actually looks like I scrolled just a little bit. So yeah, I think it can we can probably squeeze a little more in there.
Are they able to decrease the zoom on their browser window to be able to see more?
We can try that. Let's try that. Let's zoom out. So it kind of looks like we could zoom out a little bit more. So yeah, you can zoom out. So if you want to zoom on the browser, you can zoom on your browser, and it is showing, but it is a little bit smaller text. So if you're okay with that smaller text, then that should work for you.
Great. And then Ricky asks, can you export pictures the guys take in the field?
Yes. So if we go into photos, and we can filter by date or project, and let's filter by project here, and we'll go and hit apply on that. And then if we select, let's actually change our view here. So we can select each of these. Oops. Go back. So we can select each of these by checking the boxes, and this is going to allow you to download all of these in bulk. So if I hit download there, that's going to download that as a zip into a zip folder. Otherwise, I can go ahead and just download these one at a time.
Perfect.
Hopefully that answers it.
Susan is asking that she usually adds holidays via the app because the desktop version didn't allow mass changes like the app does. It appears I can mass change now. Is that correct? And can you show her how?
That's correct. Let's go into the time entries here. We can make some changes here. So if we click on all of the time entries for an employee, we can delete those. We can also click the button up here at the top right, the triple dot button, to add time off for this employee. And it looks like editing, let's click on the edit button. So that will allow us to edit multiple entries here, that edit button.
And just as a quick aside there, we did figure out the other day through trial and error that if there's time off included in those entries, the edit button won't, that pencil up in the left-hand side won't actually appear. So you will have to deselect any time off to be able to make mass entries or mass edits.
Okay, yeah, yep, thank you. So I'm not seeing time off here, so. Okay.
You got lucky.
I did.
Diane asks, is there a way to have a favorites on the dashboard so that if there are screens you use often, you can easily find them?
So favorites on the dashboard, will you repeat that again?
Is there a way to have a favorites on the dashboard so that if there is a screen you use often, you can easly find them? So I think she's just asking how we edit that dashboard.
Okay, yeah, so editing this dashboard, if there's something that you use quite a bit, so let's say you're tracking overtime really closely. If we click on that gear and we want to see the overtime hours, I would just recommend moving this up here near the top and then hit apply. That's going to display those overtime hours there. So you'll see it moved the other stuff down in priority or in the view. If you want to go a little bit further and dig into this data a little bit more, so like I said, if you're tracking this overtime closely and you hit details on this card, this is going to allow you to see the underlying data for that card. So this is for April 11th through April 17th. And you can see that's for the current pay period. And then if we click into those details again, sorry, I'm bouncing around, that's going to show you these the time for these employees here in this this time entry, including the overtime. So that's what's displaying as the overtime for that for this pay period. Okay.
Gotcha. And can you show Christina how to print just one time card at a time?
Just one time card at a time? Yep.
Yeah.
So we can go into the time cards here. And in the time cards, if we go back to a completed pay period. So we're currently looking at the current pay period. It hasn't been completed yet. And then we scroll down and you can see here, we've got employee the employee and supervisor signatures here. This is going to collate based on those time card or this layout. And then at this point, we can hit the triple dot button and hit print. And this should allow us to print out one time card at a time. So it's you can see the supervisor signature and the employee signature here, but this is a time card for just this one employee. If you're used to, and I think they're working on the real estate again in this in these reports. So you will see improvements in these reports or this report. If you're used to the old time card print view, you can still access those here in the legacy reports. And the legacy reports are going to allow you to print those time cards. And again, we pick the correct date range and hit print, and that's going to allow us to print those each all with time. So you'll see that'll pull up here in just a second. Okay.
Perfect. Do we have the ability to see all time off entries in one screen in the new web interface?
That is a good question. Let's see. It looks like we don't have a feature yet, unless you know what it is, Christy.
I don't. I was honestly asking as well because
yeah. We're still
I haven't tried to do that yet.
Yeah, we're still learning the nooks and crannies of this. But I think if again, that's going to be in the legacy reports for sure. And I'm going to keep looking around and we'll find an answer to that.
Excellent. Thank you. Let's see. Diane is just wanting to know if you can show her how to get back to the old screens one more time if they prefer to use what they're used to.
Okay, so in the, let's collapse all this. So this is what you'll see when you first open the app. And if you want to access your old legacy reports, you'll click into legacy reports here. And then in the legacy reports, this is where you'll access that old stuff. The time off report, this is where you'll find that time off report. Of course, it's not in the new interface, but like I said, if we replace this ever, it'll be with something better or as good in the new interface. All right.
Okay, we've got Shelley asking if someone forgot to clock in at 7 but remembered at 7:30, how would they correct that? So I think she probably needs to see our time accuracy sign off and what that looks like at the end of the day, maybe.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, a couple of things that you can do to address that. The first thing, when you're clocked in, so we'll clock myself in here. So I'm clocked in. When you're clocked in, and at the end of the day, you can clock out, or you can enable the daily sign off, and that's done within the settings. So in the settings here, if we go into our daily sign in, sign out, we can turn on these questions, and the question that we're focused on here is the time accuracy sign off. If we go back to my status here and click on clock out, because we have those enabled at our company, I can answer no, I was not injured. And if I answer no, my time is not correct here, BusyBusy is going to provide a space for the employees that don't have edit rights to make a note. So forgot to clock in at 7 a.m. Okay. And then whoever's reviewing those notes can make an edit to my time entry. And that's in the scenario if the user that's clocking their time doesn't have edit rights. Now, if I had edit rights, I'm going to go ahead and hit clock out. Actually, I'll need to refresh the browser. And if I hit clock in at this point, or if I hit the triple dot button rather, if I do have edit rights, I'm a manager or a supervisor that has edit rights, I can hit that triple dot button and hit clock in at. That's going to allow me to clock in retroactively at a specific time. So I could easily change this to 7 a.m. and you can key that in. So that's one of the nice features that we've enabled there. So that's going to let me clock in at a time in the past if I forgot.
Excellent. And Sean is asking, what is the easiest way for managers to approve timesheets on the web now?
So the easiest way for managers to do that would be within the time cards report. Like I said, if you have your employee group set up, you can easily set the date range. So we'll go back to a previous date range, and I can filter by employee group. So if you have set groups or pools of employees that you want to group together, you can group employees together. And then if we filter, and we may not have anybody in our employee groups, but if you were to filter, and there were people in that group, so we do have people in this group, this test group, that's just going to display the employees that are a part of that test group. You can also limit visibility of managers to a specific group of employees, and that way they would only see the timesheets for the group of employees that they have access to. So from here, I can go ahead and click, and well, that's the employee signature. I can click the supervisor signature and sign the time card. It's beautiful. And now that time card's been signed. So I can go ahead and go through and do that for each of my employees.
Perfect. Let's see. The new time card report to print isn't showing the job. How do you see that in the new report? So I think that would send them to the entries, correct?
Yeah, so the entries, you can see the projects here. So the projects are showing up here in the entries. But I think they might be talking about the project summary in the old report. We currently don't have a summary like that on the time card. So if we go into the legacy reports and go into the time card report here, that's still showing up here. And that's a question or a feature we've gotten a request for since we've released this. So that project summary, I think is might be what you're talking about. If that's different, then let us know. But for now, that project summary is only visible within the legacy report, but you can see the projects that the time entries have been assigned to here.
Got it. One question that we had come up previously and has come up a couple of times in our support chat is whether or not an employee who has employee-only permissions can sign their time cards from their My Status page now.
So that, I believe that was an issue that we knew the time cards wasn't showing up. Let's sign in as Aaron Rogers on an incognito window, because he's actually a Jeopardy host. Let me change his position. So I'll change his position back to an employee, and we'll just see if he has the ability to sign his time card yet. So we'll change him to employee 5 update. And then we'll open an incognito window because it won't log me out. Okay, so if we go into my status for him, it looks like that is not yet available. It will be. Our developers are aware of it, that previously employees would be able to sign their time cards from my status. Right now, you would have to go, right now you'd have to sign it on your mobile device. And that's being fixed, right, Christy?
Yes, they are working on adding that functionality. So when they developed the web interface, they really had admins and owners in mind, and so they're now kind of revisiting the functionality for an employee with employee-only permission. But they can go to an admin screen, correct? If an admin pulls that up for them, they can sign from there. Gordon?
Yes, yeah, they could sign from an admin's account. So if you were to use your admins, or have, let your admin, if your admin will let you on their computer to sign off, you can do that from their computer. And like I said, you can also do that on the mobile app if you need to use the mobile app for the time being. Perfect.
And then it looks like I had, it's very tiny, and I have my old lady glasses on, so y'all will have to forgive me. But it looks like John messaged into the chat. What does the daily signature report flag?
The daily signature report.
Mm-hmm.
So the daily signature report, I'm guessing you're talking about the daily sign off here. So if anybody has answered the question, yes, I was injured, that will show up as a account here. If they've indicated that their time is not correct, again, that will show up here as a count. And then the break issues are if an employee has indicated that they did not follow the company break policy, that will also show up here and flag that entry. So if I click into any one of these, it's going to let me see the daily sign-off report, where we can see the incorrect time, injury, and the break sign-off question, the break issues.
Excellent. Well, I think that actually takes care of all of our questions and answers that came in today. If anyone has any they want to shoot over really quickly before we wrap up, they can do that. And in the meantime, Gordon, I'll let you go ahead and let them know what to expect from us next, and wrap this up for us today.
Right. So I think this is the last webinar that we're doing for this release. We have some other things coming, of course, or other things that we're very excited about. That will be in the next few weeks. We will do some more webinars like this. There'll be less content because the features that we're releasing are going to be smaller, but we do want to make sure that you are taking advantage of those features, because we have been working very hard on them, and they're going to be super useful especially for you admins and you and the project managers on the call. If you do have questions, go ahead and hit up Christy's team in the support chat. That's the chat right there. And then you can also check in on our frequently asked questions, and you can suggest features. The frequently asked questions, will be updating those with new the FAQs with new content on the current release as well as the upcoming release. So check that out. Make sure that you're keeping up on those. Did we have any? We didn't have any other webinars scheduled, but I think Christy, we're sending out another email for the next release, right?
Yep, everybody will get another email, just like the one we did for this release, that will have a link to a scheduling page as well as the webinar links in them. I think the next release is quite a bit smaller. I think everybody will find some relief in that, but there will be some great updates, and it will be a release for not only the web, but both Android and iOS as well. So they'll want to make sure that they catch that webinar and go through all the great things that'll be released with that one as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Christy, and thank you all for spending the time with us this morning. We're really excited for what's coming, and just keep an eye out for any new elements that we add to the dashboard.
Thanks for joining us today, everyone. We hope to hear from all of you really soon.